I'm Mr. Finn, and this is Survival of the Finnest. The most important tool in any survival situation is the axe. And if your axe is dull, well, that's not going to cut it. So what you do is you take your whetstone and in small circles you sharpen your axe. Make sure you make some weird faces while you're at it. It won't get sharp without weird faces. Make sure you sharpen both sides evenly. And if it's not feeling like it's doing the job, well, my grandpa always said just spit on it. That's why they call it a whetstone. I don't know if that's true, but it does help you make strange faces. Now, there are 4 key elements to survival: fire, water, food, and shelter. I list them in that order because I'm just reading them off the screen. That's the order they appeared in. But I do think that fire is the most important, because unless you've got a good, clean source of water, you're going to have to boil whatever water you find before you can drink it. And to boil it, you need fire. And to build a fire, you need fuel. And that's where that axe comes in. That super sharp axe that'll just cut right through anything first strike. In order to build a fire, you've got to have kindling. So make sure you find some creative ways to get some small pieces of wood that you can then later use to start your fire with. When your axe gets stuck in a piece of wood like this one, make sure that when you're hammering on it with a piece of wood that you don't hammer on the axe handle. You want to make sure that you're hitting the metal part of the axe, just driving it deeper with each hit, but don't hit the handle. That'll break the handle and then you won't have an axe. Now, at some point, you're going to innovate. Yep, grab a bigger piece of wood. Now, a bigger piece of wood is heavier, so it should do more damage, but it's a lot harder to control. As they say, frustration is the mother of innovation, and when you get frustrated, you figure out more reasonable ways to do things. The big piece of wood wasn't a bad idea. I just needed to use gravity and let gravity do the work for me. Now it starts to go. And with the 378th swing of the axe, I finally split my first piece of wood. Second one was a lot easier. So during my first week of quarantine, I decided that I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do something that I wasn't sure I would be able to do if I were ever forced into a situation where I would need to be able to do it. That's a long way of saying I'm not sure I can light a fire without a lighter or some matches. Now, once I figured out that I needed to separate the magnesium rod from the striker, I got some good sparks out of it. But it was not enough to actually start a fire, and the material I was working with was pretty darn wet. So I went off in search of some drier material and maybe something to eat. Now, a lot of food sources can be found in old wood piles like this one, anywhere from grubs to worms to wood boring beetles like this one here. That's a wood beetle. There's a lot of protein in that little guy right there. I'm going to save that protein for another day. Now, since my material was so wet, I thought I would take a little journey down the path and across the water to a place where I felt like I might be able to find something a little bit drier that just might be able to burn. I know the wood shavings from the chicken coop is kind of cheating, but at this point I was desperate to be able to find anything that would actually light on fire. So I brought those wood shavings back to the fire pit and tried again with my striker and rod. It didn't go so well. So I thought, if I'm already cheating, I might as well cheat all the way. I had some lint in my pocket. It wasn't from my pocket. I went into the house and got it from the dryer, because I know the dryer lint will really burn. So although I got a second fire going, turns out the material I was working with was just still too wet. And I could not get it to catch for longer than a few seconds. Now, I try a lot of different techniques here. None of them are really good. I hadn't done any research yet in how to use a striker and magnesium rod, so I was just making it up as I went along. Now that I've watched some videos of people who actually know what they're doing, my hope is that my next video will be a little bit better and my fire will start faster. Either way, I think there's a lesson to be learned here. I don't know exactly what it is, but I imagine it has something to do with the value of persistence. Trying to do something even though you may fail, and fail, and fail. Might have something to do with innovation, trying different techniques, just seeing what you can come up with and what works best and what doesn't work at all. I came up with probably 6,000 ways to not light a fire today. Maybe the lesson is just about pushing yourself to do something and putting in the effort to learn how to do that thing. I think all of those would be good lessons, and if there's something that you think that you would like to learn how to do, I would encourage you to go out and research some videos, maybe figure out what it is that you need to learn to be able to do it. And maybe you too can eventually get your fire going. Or maybe not. I tried for a few more hours to get this fire to go, and eventually I gave up. But I gave up knowing that I'm going to come back to it later, and next time I will get that fire going. So keep your spirits up, and know that even though you might not get it today, that doesn't mean you won't ever get it. See you next time.